Attention bird seekers! It's time for Out There with the Birds, the podcast that puts a little birdhouse in your soul, with your hosts, Ben Lizdas and Bill Thompson III. Out There with the Birds is supported by Swarovski Optic, makers of the amazing EL series of binoculars and the BTX spotting scope, which combines the magnification of a scope with the clarity and comfort of binocular vision. Learn more at SwarovskiOptic.com. That's Swarovski followed by optic with a K.com. Tamron camera lenses offer powerful performance that exceeds your imagination. Discover the full line of ultra telephoto zoom lenses at tinyurl.com/tamron-bwd. Red Start Birding is your new resource for birding optics, gear, and expertise. Great birding starts at redstartbirding.com. And support also comes from the Reader Rendezvous Birding Adventures from Birdwatchers Digest. Come birding with us in our favorite places. Learn more at birdwatchersdigest.com/rr. And now, here they are, Bill and Ben.
Good morning, Ben, Dylan Lizdas. How are you?
Doing all right. How are you doing, William Thompson?
William Henry Thompson III.
William Henry Thompson III.
I'll have you know. We should start addressing each other by our full names all the time.
That would be interesting to do. I think we should start doing that first around people who don't know us already,
Right.
because that way we can really you wonder what kind of first impression you make. Talk about an odd couple, yeah, those guys refer to them. I mean, it's almost like referring to yourself in the third person. It seems it's just kind of like level of apartness.
Well, I think that's the next thing we do is we start referring to ourselves in the third person. Like, well, William Henry Thompson III really loves the red-headed woodpecker. It was a good day for Benjamin Dylan Lizdas. All right. So you and I were just talking before we got on here about getting our fitness programs back on track, and you get to do yours outside.
I get to do mine outside, yeah, which is great. I get to go bird watching while I do kind of my morning routine these days. I joined this master's swimming program at the village pool here in the little town that I live in. And it's, a short little bike ride from my house, and I get there at 5:30 in the morning. And it's situated right against this natural area, oak woodlands. And as I am swimming yesterday, for instance, had an oriole fly right over the pool while I'm doing laps in the pool. And it's from 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning. So things are just starting to wake up. You hear blue jays starting to call. So it's a great way of starting my day outdoors, getting in some exercise and also being able to bird at the same time. So
yeah, good for you.
As long as I can get myself there and awake by 5:30 in the morning before I jump in that water, I can do it. Getting myself out of bed at 5 in the morning on a summer while the rest of my family sleeps in is just an act of discipline in and of itself.
Sure is. My gosh, I'm very impressed by that. I have started doing some yoga and working out at the local Y here, all in preparation for a summer of playing old timers softball. I was excited. I've already played a game 2 weeks ago. Last week was rained out. Very excited that I haven't completely lost my baseball skills. I can't really run like I used to, which I knew was going to be the case, but I'm working on that, trying to get a little bit more flexibility and working on a sore ankle. But when I'm playing softball, I'm also birding. So like down at the softball fields with the lights going, we got nighthawks and they're feeding us around and killdeer and stuff like that.
So this is kind of the transition we make from spring into summer. Whereas if we were having this conversation a month ago, you'd say I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I go out birding. Mm-hmm. That's how you start your day. And so this is sort of the post-migration blues tend to set in for some birders, where the rush of spring migration happens, and we're used to seeing all this species diversity of things pouring through different every day, and then we get into this post-migration instance where we find other things to do than we happen to bird while we're doing them, with our local resident birds. But it's a different sort of way that we appreciate birds and birding in the summer than, of course, in the spring or the fall.
Yeah, but one interesting thing that I find every post spring every year, this is going back over the course of my 20 plus years of living on a farm in southeast Ohio. There's the rush of migration, and then the birds kind of settle in, and there's the singing birds go for a while, and then they shut up because they're nesting.
Yeah.
Right. And then they might be quiet for a few days or a week or 10 days or something. then they'll start singing again. And we've had massive storms. So I think a lot of the first nesting efforts got wiped out. I know our Carolina wrens got wiped out. I think probably some of the cup nesting birds, we had super high winds and damaging, like
Okay.
trees breaking. But whether or not that happens, whether or not the first brood happens, we get these birds that wander in from somewhere else that maybe tried to nest somewhere else or didn't find a mate. So just this week, Baltimore oriole, orchard oriole, rose-breasted grosbeak, which is very unusual this far south in Ohio.
Yeah.
These are
Yeah.
all birds that have been singing in the yard, and I'm like, wow, they're singing repeatedly. I wonder if this is like a second breeding attempt, or it's lonely males kind of looking for love.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it's a neat thing to watch for. The cycles of song activity kind of petering out and then rising up again with the nesting, attempts, and then petering and then rising up again maybe with secondary nesting attempts. And then, of course, there are some birds that will sing no matter what. Red-eyed vireo, white-eyed vireo, Carolina wren.
Yeah.
These are birds that sing, even our yellow-breasted chat has been going nuts, like singing day and night. But a lot of those other birds, they're just very determined singers. And even on the hottest doldrum days of summer, you'll still hear red-eyed vireo out there going. And so, it's neat. You got to just kind of tune in on a more micro way to see what's happening with the birds. Because if you tune into those subtle little differences, little bits of, changes in activity, it can be just as interesting. It's not quite as overwhelmingly like enthralling as spring migration, but it's interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, it's a different type of birding. I mean, when we're out birding in spring migration, you're walking through habitat and waiting for these waves of feeding flocks to sort of cross your path. And there's that little bit of that anticipation of what am I possibly going to see today? Every day is different. Whereas these days, it is the hunker down and appreciate the birds that are nesting and that are going to be on territory where you could go on the same walk, day after day and kind of run into the same specific birds in the same nesting areas doing their thing, and it's just that slower pace of being able to enjoy and observe, and there's a little bit more predictability to summer
Right,
birding, I guess.
right, right. I was wondering how can you give us a quick little bird report from the Acadia Birding Festival in Maine?
So the Acadia Birdie Festival of Maine, this is a great example of, I would say, at the end of the spring festivals where you're heading to an area where a lot of the birding is you're appreciating the nesting birds of that area. Good mix of migrants that are starting to nest there, be it redstarts, chestnut-sided woodpecker, or chestnut-sided warblers, uh, lots of red-eyed vireos, of course, uh, lots of northern parullas, that kind of thing. But the real exciting bird there at the birding festival that I missed because I didn't go on the pelagic trip. Marshall Iliff, who from one of the kind of architect, kind of key people for eBird at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, picked up on a brown booby on the pelagic trip
Wow.
in Maine. Yeah, so that was the
I wonder
exciting
if that
bird
got
there.
rejected by eBird when he tried to enter it.
There were good photos. He had cameras on. So no, probably, and he was on that trip. Jan Pearson was on there. So all of the eBird record people in
Right.
Maine were on that boat trip. I got to see it, but that was a pretty cool bird for that festival. For me, it was kind of knocked down a nemesis bird for me in the year, which had been peregrine falcon. I had been having a hard time crossing paths with the peregrine falcon this year. Had great looks at peregrine falcon. There's some this coastal cliff area there where we were doing some birding, and there were a pair of peregrines nesting there. Got to see one of them doing a little bit of dog fighting with an osprey. It's always fun to see those raptors
Oh yeah.
interacting like that. So the birding was good. The birding was really good.
Good. Yeah, I realized one of my nemesis birds is right now is great horned owl. I haven't
You
heard
didn't have
one
good
yet.
horned owl on the ear.
No, I mean, I may
Well,
have
the
right
thing of
around
it, I don't know that I
January 1.
have out there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
Well,
it's one we're gonna have to look for in our trip next week, which is the Colorado Rocky Mountain
yeah.
High Reader Rendezvous.
That's right. That's right. That should be a good time.
Now I'm
I
looking
have
forward to that.
that is an underbirded part of the country for me. Every time I find myself in the Rocky Mountains, I'm usually there on some sort of other business. I'm traveling with a friend who's not a birder. I'm there with my family. They don't want to, they're not super into birding necessarily. So I never get time where I'm, spend a couple days being like, I want to hit this habitat, look for these birds. When you're going out with a group of birders and doing your thing, that's quality birding time. I never get that in the Rocky Mountains. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And we are going to try to show people birds that, down in the Pawnee grasslands and up in the foothills and then way up high in the high
Mhm.
passes of Rocky Mountain National Park. So
Elevation diversity.
I'm excited about that. And um, Colorado always makes people think about, legalization of marijuana. And it's an interesting thing that came up um, just recently. I noticed Paul
I'm trying to figure out how you're going to tie this into birds.
Yeah. Well, Paul Basich wrote about this in our quick takes in the upcoming issue of Birdwatchers Digest. Paul, has written a book on the history of bird feeding in North America. So this was of special interest to him. That back in the day, like around the time of the first Peterson Field Guide in the 30s, one of the most popular bird seeds to feed was hemp seed.
Oh,
And if you
believe
think
it.
about it, it's just like one of those little round seeds. Not that I've really ever seen it, but I understand that it's these little round seeds, and they're perfect for bird. You might know what they look like, Ben, or maybe not. I don't know, but they're so he was saying in this quick take that it would be interesting as more and more states are considering, you know, medical marijuana or legalization for recreational use or whatever, that there are going to be these growers in states. And one of the side benefits, because the seeds largely are a waste product of a lot of
Yeah.
growing operations, that maybe the seeds could start being harvested for bird feeding once again. Who knows if the birds would get any side benefits other than nutrition from that? But it could be pretty
Yeah.
cool. Think about it. It might give the
Yeah.
birds munchies and make them come to the feeders more often.
It could. It could. I think most of the folks who are growing marijuana for human consumption are probably hoping that they're not going to be making any seeds.
Yeah, I know.
You know.
And yet,
So, but also with that is going to become this agricultural use, and who knows? I mean, you could see hemp seeds becoming a popular bird food. People growing it just for the seed,
yeah,
as another way of diversifying crops, and who knows? I know that if you look at the you know, uh, had spent time in North Dakota before, and sunflower production out there is huge
right.
for all sorts of purposes, and they have major issues with birds and the take of the sunflower crop that birds get. And you wonder if you go from these monolithic, monocrops of sunflower or wherever they grow to interspersing with other types of bird food, if it ends up kind of creating a little bit more, ultimately a net gain in production from that diversity. Um, you never know. So you could see that just coming back into play as well.
Yeah, for sure. When I was a kid, my dad worked for the governor of Iowa, and I remember hearing him talking about this was in the late 60s, 68, 69, 70, that in World War II, a lot of the Iowa cornfields were converted to growing hemp or sisal for rope,
Hmm.
because the fibers of that kind of hemp would be used to make long ropes for military use. And my dad, I remember hearing one of my dad's friends say, yeah, there are all these Volkswagen vans with California license plates driving the back roads of Iowa looking for hemp growing in the ditches to pick it. I'm sure it wasn't any good to, the benefits they were looking for, but that's another crop. If marijuana becomes more legal and hemp growing becomes more of a thing, you're starting to see it in clothing and
Yeah.
cosmetics
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It would be very interesting to see if bird feeding of the hemp seeds to birds would come back. I think that'd be kind of an interesting thing to follow. So we'll earmark that for a later conversation. Another bird I wanted to talk about, and this is a bird that I'm kind of hoping we can run into in Colorado, but we may not, maybe a little farther north, is the roadrunner. I think we might be a little too far north for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be expecting to see that in Colorado, but it would be a pretty cool
I'm
bird
going
to
to
run
try and
into,
see
I
it in
suppose.
Arizona in August. I'm at the Southeast Arizona Birding Festival, so I'm hoping to see one there. But that's a bird that I've noticed in my years as a birder, my 147 years as a birder, that you can't try to see certain birds, like a roadrunner.
Yeah,
You can't go try to see a roadrunner.
Roadrunner finds you.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. And a lot of the birds that remind me of that type of instances tend to be the grouse.
Yeah.
Spruce grouse was one of those birds where you just like, you can't find spruce grouse. Spruce grouse finds you. I think of Montezuma quail.
Right.
It's one of those birds as well, which I have yet to see. Um, Despite being in great habitat, looking for them all the time.
Hmm.
When I've been around that area, it's not possible. And that's a same kind of bird you could run into. You could be on your quest for the roadrunner and run into a Montezuma quail easily enough, which would
That's
not
true.
be a bad bonus bird.
That'd be a bunch of bird. What's the best bird you've added recently to your Out There with the Birds Global Big Year Challenge TM list?
Oh, geez, the best bird I've added
I mean,
recently.
since our last podcast, I'm sure you've added a bird or two.
Yeah, Bell's Vireo.
Oh, dude, that's nice.
Yeah, they nest around here in some of the kind of the prairie areas where you're starting to see some thickets and some shrubs grown in. You'll hear them on occasion. And
Hmm.
the route where one of the things I do in the summer I do a lot of road biking, and I'll pass areas and where there's good habitat, state natural areas and whatnot, where it's prime habitat for something like Bell's Vireo. And I picked one up not too long ago, uh, going on a bike ride. So that would be I'd say my best local bird.
That's a
Best
really
local
good
bird.
one. That's a really
Yeah,
good one.
it is a pretty good one. How about you?
I was trying to think about that after I asked you the question. I thought, well, this is going to boomerang back at me. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't new, I don't think, for the list, but I've had a couple of blue grosbeaks recently, and that's pretty cool. I think I'd already had that. Maybe did we have one in Honduras or something? But so it's not absolutely new for the Global Big Ear Challenge TM list, but that's a bird that's coming up from the south and nesting.
Hmm.
And every few years we'll
So you're
get
seeing some range expansion
yeah,
going on.
uh, opposite of the rose-breasted grosbeak, which seems to be coming down from the north and sort of in defiance of global warming, I guess, or something like that. But it's kind of cool when you add a bird like a few weeks ago I heard the first whippoorwill, and I was like, yes. So I'm stoked to get out to Colorado and add some more birds to the list. I'm still struggling with my list keeping quest. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I submitted an eBird checklist while I was in Maine just because I was a field trip leader, and the other field trip leader didn't use eBird, had less of an interest in using eBird than I did. So I said, all right, I'll keep an eBird checklist, and I think I've got it figured out. Maybe next year I'll kind of try an eBird year where I will go from start to finish using eBird to see how that works. But
mhm,
I kind of feel like at this point, midway through the year, I'm sticking with my method that I'm at right now.
exactly.
So,
No, I think that's a smart move. Um,
uh,
all right. So what do you have?
so we were talking about our trip to Colorado coming up for birding. We have a second trip to Colorado coming up this summer, though. We're going to be there twice, Bill.
True.
Um, so the other reason we're going to be going there is we're going to be going to the Outdoor Retailer, which is this outdoor trade show for the outdoor industry. People like Patagonia and North Face, and these kind of those kind of not I don't think of them within a birding context so much. I think of them as going to REI or camping, hiking, mountain
Right.
climbing, trail running, that
Outdoor
type of thing.
adventure sports kind of thing.
Outdoor adventure sports, a different kind of crowd than we're going to run into, say, at the British Bird Fair or the American Birding Expo. However, as you and I both know, lots of crossover between the types of things we enjoy doing, or at least
Hmm.
the type of products and gear that we consume. So I've been thinking about the Outdoor Retailer and some of the stuff that we might be expecting to see at that event that would be of interest to bird watchers, because we'll probably be one of very few birders there.
I know.
So,
I'm excited to try and find some of the stuff that bird watchers use. Like sun protection clothing and
mhm.
hats and whatnot. Walking sticks. I really think that we should be selling walking sticks in Red Start. I've noticed those on some of our, especially tropical trips where you're going to be hiking, and I bet we'll see a
Yeah.
bunch in Colorado. That
Hmm.
that's something that can be.
Elevation changes.
Yeah, yeah. Just you want to have a little extra stability, and there's.
Insect repellent. I'm
Hmm.
looking to see what the wide world of insect repellents are that's going to be there. Um, because, if just coming back from Maine, there were spots where mosquitoes were atrocious.
Yeah, yeah. They were
So
they were gobbling up Benjamin Dillon Lizdas like crazy, weren't they?
big time, big time.
That's tough.
Um, the footwear too, of course. When we go to
Yep.
shot shows, always I just to me it's your feet are the foundation of your happiness. If you're going to be out bird watching, your feet have to be comfortable, have to be stable. You have to have boots that breathe, that you can walk all day in. And to me, a good pair of boots is just heaven when you're birding.
Wasn't that your feet? Say that again. Your feet are what?
They're like where it's all starts.
The
They're
center
kind of
center of your happiness.
they're
Wasn't
like they're like the foundation of your happiness.
wasn't that the primary literary theme of 50 Shades of Grey?
I'm vaguely familiar with 50 Shades of Grey.
Okay.
So now I would not have related feet to what when I think of 50 Shades of Grey, it pops in my head. I think a lot of things that don't have anything to do with birding, maybe.
Well,
Or
what about if the title was 50 Shades of Grey Catbird?
I'd say you're using the wrong binoculars.
All right. So, speaking of binoculars, I want to move on to our segment with everybody the world over refers to you as the LeBron James of birding optics, and now that the Cavaliers have been swept in the NBA championship,
Embarrassing.
we might have to come up with another name for you.
Yeah.
But we're going to stick with LeBron for now because he hasn't declared that he's. I think he's probably going to move to L.A. or something like that. But anyway, so Mr. LeBron James of birding optics, I had a question the other day, and it was from a friend of mine who is a birder and getting more avid, and she asked me because she's been using some old, I think Eagle Optics Rangers, actually, and she asked me, are high-end optics really worth it? And of course, I had an answer.
Are they really worth it?
Yeah, are they really worth it? Like, should I invest? And so take it away. Give us your answer.
So I always would say whether or not something is worth it becomes completely subjective. So while I can't say it's worth it, it all depends on, some people would say, is lunch worth spending $20 on when you can go to McDonald's and get something for $5? Well, the lunch you spend $20 on is much better. Is it worth it? All depends who you are and what your tastes are. Some people will get pairs of binoculars that will be right around that $300 to $400 price range, never feel compelled to upgrade. Having said that, once you taste or experience what a high-end pair of binoculars provides you, you will always want to use a high-end pair of binoculars. So while it may be difficult to say they're worth it, I can objectively say they are absolutely 100% objectively better. So are they worth it? Okay, let's get back to that question. The views are better. Binoculars last so long. You don't wear out binoculars like you do digital cameras or laptops or cars or cell phones. It's not an upgrade thing that you get or replace every 2 to 3 years. So if you spend a lot of money on a really nice pair of binoculars, you'll get 7 years of hard regular use out of it, 15 years of regular use out of it for some people. So it just keeps paying off. And the longer you have them, the more you get to look at birds with better clarity, brightness, resolution. You just see more detail, you see more information, and that just makes the birding experience more fun. So high-end binoculars, they last longer, they're built better, they provide these great images, and also at some point, if you want to sell them, they have a better resale value. So I think they're worth it for sure. I think a lot of birders who end up kind of stretching their budget and getting a pair of high-end binoculars who do it, I can't think of anyone who looks back and says, you know what? I could have saved that money and, be just as happy with something not as nice.
Right. I could have gotten some $200 binoculars and spent the other $800 at McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Boy, that's a lot of money to spend at McDonald's. But, situations where those high-end binoculars really outperform the less expensive ones if you have something that's backlit.
Right.
I remember at Dawn at the New River Birding Festival a couple of years ago, we were out birding. There was this bird perched in a bare tree branch, just sitting there, not singing, not doing anything, just sitting there. And we all stopped to look at our binoculars. The woman next to me could not tell what the bird was. She just by the silhouette of the bird. I looked at it with my binoculars and I said, "That's an indigo bunting." And she said, "How'd you know?" And I handed her my binoculars and she looked through them and she's like, "Oh, it's blue." Whereas, that backlit bird through her nice, $400 some dollar binoculars, the color wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between those super premium lenses and the otherwise good lenses. It's when the viewing conditions suck, the super premium lenses still keep performing.
And that's why people all over planet Earth and beyond refer to you as the LeBron James of birding optics. Ladies and gentlemen, Benjamin Dylan Lizdas. All right,
Oh,
man.
shucks.
So we gotta pack up our stuff and get ready to go here in just a quick week.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Colorado, here we come. I'm trying to figure out what the top thing to remember on my packing list is. Whatever you happen to bring, don't forget this one essential.
Right. That'd probably
Because
be binocular or hiking
yeah,
boots.
exactly. Good pair of hiking boots.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, good talking to you once again, Benjamin Dillon, and we'll look forward
Likewise,
to
William Henry.
look forward to going right into staff meeting here.
Right. Talk to you later.
Bye bye.
That's a wrap for this episode of Out There with the Birds. Special thanks to Swarovski, our optic sponsor. Learn more about their fine line of birding and lifestyle optics at SwarovskiOptic.com. That's Swarovski followed by opticwithak.com. If you love to take photos of birds, Tamron telephoto camera lenses offer powerful performance that exceeds your imagination. Discover more at tinyurl.com/Tamron-BWD. Your source for the best birding optics is Red Start Birding. Great birding starts here, redstartbirding.com. Finally, we're also supported by the wonderfully enriching Reader Rendezvous birding trips from Birdwatchers Digest. Your next birding adventure starts at birdwatchersdigest.com/RR. Tune in next time for some more chit-chat from those feckless countenances, Bill and Ben. Until then, this is Phoebe reminding you that no one really gets hurt in a murder of crows. And we'll see you out there with the birds.